Hi, my name's Jane Moore, and I'm here with Jamie Fox from the Alhambra Hills Open Space Committee. So, Jamie, we're here to talk about Alhambra Hills and Measure F. So, can you give us a little backstory about why we're sitting here and trying to save this beautiful place?
Well, we have the chance of a lifetime right now. Okay. So on June 7th, City of Martinez gets the opportunity to vote on Measure F. And if they vote yes, they can protect the hill behind us.
Fantastic.
300 acres, the most beautiful ridgeline in Martinez, tallest ridgeline, most historic, really chance of a lifetime.
That's
and
great.
It's really 30 years in the making. The communities come together and made this possible.
And the City Council, I understand.
City Council voted unanimously to put it on the ballot.
There you go. Okay, that's great. So for those people not familiar with where Alhambra Hills is located, why don't you tell us a little bit about geography and give us some coordinates so they can look it up?
Well, it's a special hill. So like I said, it's the tallest ridgeline in the city. Mm-hmm. It's located south of Highway 4 between Release Valley Road and Alhambra Avenue. You can see it from all around town, from the high school, from the waterfront, and especially from John Muir National Historic Site, the top of Mount Wanda. You get a beautiful view of it with Mount Diablo in the background.
Oh, that sounds beautiful.
It's incredible, and we have to protect that view.
Yes, we do. So what should voters know about Alhambra Hills, and why is it so important historically, and where is it located in proximity to other parks in the area, that kind of thing?
So it's threatened by development of 109 homes along the ridgeline from an out-of-state Texas developer, and when it was approved in 2011, it wasn't actually known that it was owned by John Muir in 1894. Oh. So our group in 2014 found a map that proved that Muir owned it. And so we had some involvement with the family and the community and really raised a lot of awareness. And that's really what shifted the tide with trying to preserve the hill, because of the historic aspect. The community's always wanted to save it, but that just put a lot of fuel to the fire. I think that this is a federally important and nationally important area, not just to Martinez, but to the history of our nation in a way.
And we already have the John Muir house and John Muir's grave, so it would be a natural transition to try to save this as part of that historical.
And if you could imagine, John Muir was about saving America's most beautiful areas, and so it's great we have the house, it's great we have the gravesite, but I think the hill that he owned in 1894 and walked with his daughters Wanda and Helen would be the most special.
Absolutely, kind of ties it all up.
It really
nicely.
does. In fact, he's buried at the bottom of the hill.
That's right, right. And so Briones Regional Park, which we're sitting at the base, on the way to that hiking area, is right in the same proximity.
It's so close that people think the Alhambra Hills is Briones Park. And if it was developed, I think there would be a huge uproar and people could not imagine, why are they developing Briones Park?
Right.
And so if we save it, it not only protects the views from the parks, but extends the park to a critical area where we have a nexus of trails that connect to the Canal Trail to the east, connects to Mount Wanda to the north, and connects to Briones Park here to the west.
What about wildlife and saving wildlife? Is there any endangered species that they found in that area?
There's a number of species, and one of them is federally endangered, the Alameda whipsnake.
Okay.
There's all types of foxes, owls, hawks that comb the ridgeline, coyotes. It's connected to the surrounding open spaces, so it's very important for them to have that habitat, that continuity to other areas.
Sure, especially as their territory is being encroached on by other developments and things like that.
That's right.
Right. That's so important. So the City Council voted to put Measure F on the ballot for the June 7th election. And how is Measure F going to make a difference? I know that this has been a hot topic for the last 30 years, as you said. So what's making the difference now, and what's at stake if Measure F does not pass?
This is our last chance. This is it. The developer has the plans approved. They have the building permit ready to go. We're at a fork in the road. We can either save it forever for all future generations, or it will be bulldozed along the ridgeline, infilled with 2-to-1 grading. A lot of those V ditches you see with the mudslides around town, there's an incredible amount of that. It's kind of shocking in a way. So this is our last chance. On June 7th, we get a voice, and we get the chance to save this forever.
Okay, and what about how many houses are going to be put up there if we, for some reason, don't pass Measure F? What are we looking at as numbers?
I mean, first of all, we recognize housing is important, but housing needs to be in the right place. And I think everyone agrees in the community this is just not the right place for 109 homes on the tallest hill in our city, overlooking the whole town. These would not be affordable homes for the average Martinez resident. And in fact, everyone loses in a way, because the panoramic 360-degree views would be gone for everybody, even the homeowners. on top of the hill.
Yeah, I think that's really an important point, that it's not the homes that our average citizens in our city are going to be able to afford to buy.
Right.
So that's really important.
And the developer's a willing seller. I think that's important to note.
Oh, okay. So tell me a little bit more about the developer and why they've come to this point, and what other skin in the game do they have? What are they being asked to contribute if we do pass Measure F?
It's simple. This is a dedicated measure. There's no bureaucracy involved. We simply raise enough funds to buy it at the price that they're asking for, which was negotiated over a number of years. And so this is a long time in the making, and we just need to kind of close the deal.
Okay. I think they're probably tired of the fight, huh? Let's hope.
Yeah, it's a risky development.
Yeah.
You know, they could grade it and build it, and then find that the market changes, and we could be left with a hill that's been destroyed, and the homes aren't viable anymore either.
Right. That's very true. So tell us a little bit about Measure F. What's it going to cost, and how long does it go? And you said the funds are dedicated to that, but are they ever going to, are they going to ask for more money down the road? Talk a little bit about Measure F and what it really means monetarily.
It's simple for the average single family house. It's $79 annually. It's a fixed amount. For 30 years, it will never go up. If you break that down to every day, it's 22 cents a day. And what I like to say, it's really less than a lot of folks spend on Starbucks coffee. My kids especially, probably in a month, they love their cream cheese bagels. So I think it's a good investment. If you look at these areas we've saved, hardly anyone says, that was a bad investment. It's almost always treasured by the entire community across the political spectrum.
And is it just a tax that goes on property owners, or are renters being charged, or how's that going to work?
That's a really good question. It's a parcel tax. Mm-hmm. So if you're a renter, the landlord would be responsible to pay that tax, and whether or not they pass that through to the renter is up to them. Mm-hmm. And then for multifamily homes, if you go to our website, there's information about how those are taxed. And there's actually discounts and exceptions for low-income residents. It's the PGD CARE program qualifications. Mm-hmm. You can get that on our website as well.
Okay, fantastic. That's great. So that's really important information, because I think that a lot of people see the word tax and they think, oh no, here we go again. But it sounds like it's really a fixed number, a fixed amount, and it's not going to change. What about if for some reason it's not needed for the full 30 years?
Well, one of the common questions we get is, why can't the East Bay Parks or the John Muir Land Trust buy it? And it has to do with the zoning. Okay. So I call it the original sin was it was zoned for dense residential in the 70s, and it's very hard to recover from that. The East Bay Parks and the John Muir Land Trust can't really buy it for us. We, as the public, need to buy this as public land for our use. They are willing partners. The East Bay Parks will manage a trail from where we're at today across the hill.
Okay.
They've committed to that. And I'm sure the John Muir Land Trust would love to help out at the right time. But right now is our opportunity to buy it for the public.
So they really can't help right now because of the zoning, that it's zoned residential. And so once it's purchased, or once the measure passes and it can be purchased by the citizens of Martinez, then they are willing partners to help maintenance and kind of expand the whole.
And we've established relationships across town with the East Bay Parks. The bocce ball courts that everyone loves are actually owned by the East Bay Parks. You would think that Martinez owns it. There's land when you park at Mount Wanda that's owned by Martinez that benefits the national parks. And so there's a long history in our town, our community, of sharing those open spaces.
I agree, and I think it's also another really important point to point out that where it's located, south of Highway 4, is really going to help pull the south of Highway 4 and the north of Highway 4 communities together in a common cause, because there's been so much divisiveness sometimes during campaigns and things like that. So I think it's something that really serves the entire community of Martinez.
Yeah, and it's not a case of not in my backyard. It really is a case of we have a special ridgeline on our hands that we can save. It's
everybody's backyard, actually.
Yeah.
So that's good. Okay, so I think we covered the property owners and the history of the partnerships. What about access to the hills after Measure F passes? Are we going to be able to go hiking up there, or what's it look like?
That's a really good question. We get concerns that there will be additional costs, or there will even be fire risks.
Right.
And so I think it's important to note that there's 5 fire roads on the hill already. So the access is literally just taking down the no trespassing signs. The trails are ready to go. And in terms of fire danger, they do a great job of grading those roads every year, expanding them so that brush fires can be stamped out. the fire risk, I think, is much greater with housing, because you would not be able to stamp out that fire at the top of the hill.
Right, and you'd also have houses up there, which
That's right.
Cause that problem. So that's a really important point. I know we're all moving towards the drier season. Every year it gets drier and drier, so I think that's important to check out. So tell us a little bit about getting out the vote and how much of a percentage, what are we looking at here? How many people do we need to get? What percentage?
We need to get 66% of the vote, and I think it's important to stress the beauty of this ridgeline. We have oak trees at the very top. It's very rare you see ridgelines with oak trees on the top. There's a microclimate up there, and so you can have a picnic at the top, sit and watch the sunset. Know what it felt like for John Muir. Maybe he took his notebook out at the top with his daughters and made some of his world famous writings at the top of the hill. And there's beautiful trails that go up the hill as well, or along level parts of the hill. So 66% of the vote is very hard to achieve, but if we realize the magnitude of what's at stake, I think we've done it in the past. I think our community can come together and save it forever for all future generations.
Finally put this thing to bed.
That's right.
So how can people help? How can people get involved?
They can visit our website. If you just Google Alhambra Hills, it comes up. The mail-in ballots go out in just a couple weeks. They can help spread the word to their neighbors. I think spreading word to your people goes a long way, just that word of mouth.
Okay, and how about donations? Are you accepting donations?
Absolutely. We have flyers and lawn signs and large flyers that do cost money, so a small donation goes a long way.
Okay, that's great, because it's a very grassroots organization, and people are volunteering to really help with the distribution of all that information. And then Facebook is another great place. I think this is going to be on Facebook, so I guess everybody could share the link for this and let their friends and family know that it's also another really important way to get that message out there. Is there anything else that we need to think about as far as when we're talking to our friends? And of course it's a beautiful place, but what are some of the really important points to get across to people that will really resonate with not just the hikers? There's people that don't necessarily go up to the woods. So what's the value for somebody who has a home in the area, but they're just thinking, eesh, another tax. How can we encourage them to vote for this?
That's a really good question. I think that there's not just the hiking aspect, there's the wildlife aspect that we talked about, but there's also the view sheds and just the feeling you get when you drive by the hill. A lot of people take pride in their community just having those feelings that we still have some open space in Martinez. We haven't really let the sprawl cover every last inch of, especially our most beautiful inches that we have left. This is the last largest remaining open space in Martinez.
Within the city limits? Within
the city limits. And it's the last largest piece of the Muir Historical Ranch that's available as well.
So we really have an opportunity to not only save our ridgeline, but to create a reputation for our city as filled with residents who care about the quality of their life and the beauty of nature.
That's right.
And I think that living in Martinez, which is a small town relatively speaking in the Bay Area, that you tend to have that ability to make a difference, and you can work on campaigns like this. And I know every vote counts, because some candidates have lost elections by 100 votes. So if people don't think it matters, it really does matter. And I think that that's really important to tell your friends.
And I would encourage, if anyone has questions, to talk to us. If they have concerns, if they're skeptical, we've actually won over folks just by reaching out and talking to them, and maybe answering some of the myths that are floating out there.
And don't you have a table at the farmers market every Sunday?
That's right.
Okay.
Yep.
So
free cookies usually.
Free cookies. And volunteers staff that, and if they can't answer the questions, I know that you have actually spoken to people individually and helped answer those questions and get rid of the myths.
And that's something I didn't cover, is the group that, it's not just me. There's a wonderful group of volunteers that have been committed to this for years, and it's just so warming to your heart to see the community come together. And like you said, we're not a huge city, so we're able to have that unique perfect size to make something like this happen.
Yeah, I think that that's really important. County seat that has a reputation for environmental consciousness and saving their ridgelines in John Muir. It doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you. Is there anything else that you really want to impart to people, or?
I just want to stress the beauty that I think if I could transport people up there, they would realize that we have to save this. Okay. It's that simple.
And I think on this video we're going to have a shot from Mount Wanda, so you'll get to see a choice of that, or you can go up to Mount Wanda and look at it for yourself, right?
Right.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much, Jamie. I think it's important. Make sure you vote on June 7th. Measure F, yes.
Thank you.